Hi everybody, this is Frank from Tiny Plastic Spaceman here with another video for you guys. This one is not really an unboxing. Obviously there's no box to be had here, as you can see. This is kind of more of an unwrapping, I guess. And since Forge World have just recently changed a few things up on how they do this model that I'm going to show you, and also there's a bit more information from Forge World and Games Workshop about working with resin. I thought it'd be interesting for people who haven't ordered from Forge World before or are unfamiliar with their kits on how to, what it looks like when you get a Forge World order. Not everybody is lucky enough to be able to get them. They are expensive, but they're generally pretty good. A lot of people have bad things to say about them, but in general, I don't. So I ordered this online and went and picked it up myself from the Forge World shop at the at Warhammer World in Nottingham in England. I do live in the UK, so basically you show up, or if you're getting it posted to you, you'll have I guess this is a dispatch slip. Not really dispatch, more of a packing list, I guess. Oh no, it's not even that really, because it's not mentioned on there. But I suppose if you have this ordered, we see Frank McKinney, that's me. I don't mind giving out my last name, but I've already said my name's Frank anyway. So that's the order, the address of Games Workshop HQ. All these numbers mean something. There's an order number and various things on there. So this is this would be peeled off by the shippers, because there is a customs declaration stuff on there. So if this was going to the US, for example, it would say model kits, value of whatever, and then your address would be on there, I guess. So I don't really need that, so that's going in the trash. And then everything you order is in this big Ziploc bag. And then you get the vaunted, the desirable Forge World Ziploc bag, which has other Forge World Ziploc bags inside of it. But first we've got some other things in here, so let's have a look at those. I always save the Ziploc bags that I get, not just the Forge World ones, but usually like game stuff and things like that, because it's handy to put model parts into. So first thing we've got here is a Collect Warhammer Art pamphlet, or it's not even a pamphlet, it's more of just a little postcard thing. So they're basically just saying buy some warhammerart.com. So that's a new website. The 2015 catalog, which is already outdated, but I think this has the newest prices. Towards the end of 2015, they did raise the prices on some of the kits. I know, for example, the Fire Raptor, which I picked up in early October, just a couple weeks later, the price went up to, I think, £103, and I got it for like 96 or something like that. So the catalog's always nice. And then this is the actual packing list, so it'll say what your order is. I'm not going to open that up because that has, I think, my address on there. Let me just see. I think it does, or at least the order address. No, it says sent to Frank McKinney at Lenton, Nottingham. So that's, Lenton is the suburb of Nottingham where Games Workshop is based. Okay, so now we've got the actual kit. Now this is important. The reason why I'm doing this kit in particular is because it's got the new Sicaran pieces in it. I suppose, for completeness sake, I will go through and open up everything. But if you've seen Games Workshop towards the end of 2015, they did a series of videos. The most important one for Forge World fans is the how to work with resin, which is pretty important because they'd never actually had anything before, and considering Games Workshop Prime, as people call it, that was doing this, it was kind of a deal. I don't know if it was a big deal, but it was a deal. Now, one of the things I want to mention, and I put this on the website, tinyplasticspaceman.com, and also on the Facebook page, just search for Tiny Plastic Spaceman, is this guide to building resin model kits, which is, this is new. I mean, I only saw this, I don't know, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the first time I saw it. It was actually a boxed, I can't remember, Typhon tank that one of my friends got. And so this pamphlet is a completely new thing. And when I mentioned it in one of the forums I post on, people literally didn't believe me that this was available. So I had to post pictures, of course. Pictures or it didn't happen. So now there's no secrets in here. There are full pictures of this on the website and on the Facebook page if you want to look for them. And I'll link to them in the video description. But basically, it tells you here's the tools that they recommend. They actually do recommend a Dremel or a rotary tool. They do say a saw, but they don't. Yeah, they do say, they specify razor saw, which is so a normal wood saw from your dad's shed is not going to work here. And then putties, basically green stuff or milliput, that sort of thing. And then of course they have examples of the tools. Citadel, of course. You know, can't be buying a Forge World kit and not have overpriced Games Workshop Citadel tools recommended to you. And I'm not a hater. They are overpriced. So here's one of the big things that people, when they're making the move from plastic to resin kits, the casting gates. And I'll just get one out for you so you can see what they look like. This is a piece of the Sicaran. I don't know exactly what it is. I haven't built one yet, but this is a piece as it comes out of the box. You'll notice that it won't just slot in like a plastic model piece might. You have to cut these off, and these parts are actually quite thick. So if you cut them off right here at the model where you might do it on a plastic model, you know, plastic models, you can be fairly lazy with your prep work. You know, with resin, it's a completely different beast, and it's one of the reasons why people have you know, say a lot of bad things about Forge World when they really shouldn't. If you knew about working with resin, and to be fair to the complainers, they didn't have this information before. I think it was maybe only available as a download, and it wasn't in a nice presentation, full color sort of thing like this. So, you know, they are taking the step to make things easier access, even if, you know, it's not plastic. You will need different glues. You will need slightly, you know, maybe an extra couple of tools to work with these properly. So just to get back to it, these are the casting gates. You can see you clip it a few millimeters away, maybe an 1/8 inch or something like that if you're using standard measurements, and then use sandpaper to grind it down or chip it away, you know, very carefully slice it away with a hobby knife. What I would do on this particular piece is cut it pretty close to the piece with a razor saw, which is this thing here. Usually they have a red handle. Tamiya make them, X-Acto offer them, and there are other cheaper versions out there, but I would recommend, because the razor saw will last you for years and years, just go ahead and get the good one. Don't cheap out and get a crappy thing. Get something a name brand you recognize. Mold lines, pretty standard. Use, you know, some sanding sticks. You can find these on scale model websites and suppliers. shims, let's see. Okay, now that I'm just reading it, so I may as well read it. Shims are used to allow resin to flow through a mold without completely filling a gap that is part of a model. They are common in areas such as canopy frames or between loose cabling. So let me try to find one. Yeah, I think I see one here. I have to not look at the screen because the screen's quite small. So I don't know if that's going to focus right. But you can see this loose cabling here, these pieces here. You can see this bit of resin where I'm pointing, where it's, you know, kind of over the black so you can see it. And that bit of resin and that bit of resin. I think those are what they mean by the shims. So basically you just get a hobby knife and just cut those. Always use for me, I always use a fresh blade if I can remember to, every time I start a new model. Warped parts and repositioning. Now this is, it's very good that they put that in there, because the warped parts thing is such a huge part of the complaining that people get that say about Forge World. And in particular, a lot of people like to joke about this exact model and the warped parts that come on it. Let's see if it's the guns in particular, and how they're just a bit droopy sometimes. But that's just the nature of casting resin. So all you would have to do, you could see how these are meant to be exactly perfectly parallel. I think there's a little bit of droop on that far gun. All you would do is just get a bowl of hot water, not boiling, and just dip them in there for a few seconds and just let the plastic warm up a bit, and then just very gently bend it into shape. If you want, you can dip it into cold water immediately, or just put it under a faucet that's running cold, and that will set the plastic again. And you can do that with any resin model. This is a common thing with any resin model. You know, they are not going to come out perfectly. They're not plastic models, they're resin models. So there's extra care and attention and the tiniest bit of extra skill is needed to work with these. And patience, you know, especially if it's your first one. Checking, you know, this shows you filling in the gaps with green stuff. Liquid green stuff works okay. Priming and painting, I think, did they go over washing? Yes, checking and cleaning, it's the very first thing. So anyway, that is a really good thing. And I hope it kind of goes somewhere to, you know, maybe shut people up, basically, about how hard Forge World stuff is to work with. You know, if you're used to using plastic glue and suddenly you have to go buy a bottle of super glue, oh my gosh, it's such a horrible thing. You know, it's not. It's super glue should be a standard part of your tool set anyway. So here's the instructions. Nothing massively impressive. Here's 2 sheets of double-sided Xerox paper, photocopied, I should say. So it shows you all the steps, all the pieces, and then layout of the pieces. It's not a toy. And it says here, and before, this was the extent of the information that it gave you. We have cast this kit. Most advanced techniques in best quality resin, but there may be bubbles, use model filler or super glue. Slight warpage of thin parts can be corrected by immersing the part into hot tap water for about 1 minute, then carefully bending it into shape. Obviously, something like this I wouldn't leave in for a minute. I'd leave it in for half a minute at most, and then see if it's bendable, and it probably will be. Now this is a new picture, because previously these tracks were separate from the side of the tank. So that's the second page, and then the third page, assembling the turret, or the side sponsons and stuff, and then there's the finished version. So Nothing too, too crazy. And looking at this very closely, again, not on the screen because the screen on this that I'm using is quite small, but I don't see any bubbles. There's a bit of flashing, which is no big deal at all. Again, here I would not cut that with cutters. I maybe use the cutters up here just to get this big block out of the way, and then use the knife or razor saw to very carefully cut through these two very large pieces. I'd use the cutters here, and if anything showed in the finished model, then I'd fill it. But if it's underneath or hidden by a joint, I wouldn't worry about it. The only other thing that I notice is just here. I don't think that's even going to show up, but it's just a very slight imperfection. But that's easily covered up by weathering. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of things, and not just mistakes in painting or whatever that can be a lot of things that can be covered up by weathering. Now here's my first bubbles that I've noticed. So these will have to be filled. Now, it's just so you're aware, if you're not already, when you cast, if you imagine my hands are sort of a box, and there's a silicone mold inside there, and in this case it's a two-piece mold, which actually there's no mold line, so it's a very, very nicely done mold. You can see where the mold goes. The mold halves separate here, and see, I think probably go along this line here. So when it's poured in, and if you see how this is the level piece, so I'm trying to make it level to the frame of the camera, the resin is poured in and comes out, fills up all this area, and it's pouring through these gates, probably this gate, because this is the lower one. So it fills in this corner first, and then fills and goes higher and higher, and then so the bubbles will eventually rise. And the way this is angled, they should fill up. The bubbles should come up through here, but for whatever reason, they've ended up there. No big deal. Just get some green stuff, or some liquid green stuff, or milliput or something, and you can see the bubbles better. I mean, they're actually, it's not a deal breaker. And again, here, this is sort of the same thing, where the resin was probably poured in here first, so that it would fill at an angle, and then the bubbles would come up through here. So if there are any bubbles, they're going to be probably in this casting gate. So the resin comes down, and it just pushes the air out out of this side. So hopefully you guys understand what I mean. And most of the pieces seem to be filled at this or cast at this sort of oblong, sort of angled section. And now we get to the major pieces. Sometime last year, I think it was the Typhon, and I'm pretty sure it was this tank as well, the Sicaran. They redid the molds and made these one piece, so it makes it much, much easier to work with. The main nightmare on this is this right here. This is where a rotary tool or the razor saw will come in very, very handy. Now, taking a close look at these and comparing them to the Typhon that I saw a few weeks ago, these are a lot different, actually. This piece here on the Typhon, the thick casting gate is actually in between the treads, so there's actually a lot of I don't want to say filling, but a lot of modifying that you have to do in those areas there. So that is a good thing that I don't have to do on this. Also, just be aware that these little casting gates here, these thin ribs that I'm just peeling apart very carefully with my finger, there's actually a rivet in there, so you don't want to shave that off on accident. unfortunately, that does mean that to get to this really, really thick piece, you can't just take a razor saw and just go straight across there, because you'll remove those rivets. If you have like a tiny, if you have a tiny little piece of a ball of green stuff, you can replace the rivet, no problem, or even a pin head or a nail head or something like that. But it's a bit, yeah. I think in that case, a Dremel will definitely be take a saw and just cut it as close as you can. As close as you dare, and then use a Dremel to flatten that piece out. Quality-wise, this is it's a bit rough, I would say. The surface, I don't know if you can see in the light there, the surface is a bit rough. Not a huge deal. It's a lot smoother on this one. You see, I don't know if you can see that. It's really difficult to make these sort of comments on a video where you can't see the comparison. But anyway, let's get these big pieces out of the way. Make sure I have both guns in there. And let's look at these smaller pieces just for a couple minutes. Is that an extra gun? I think I've got an extra gun. I think I do. Forge World gave me a free gun. Alright. Well, I'm not going to complain. So that shouldn't be in the small pieces bag, I'm pretty sure. So put that in there. Lots of flashing coming off. It's no big deal. I'm not seeing, other than that one piece that had what I would say is a fair amount of bubbles. I would say that these are pretty good, actually really good casting quality. And on a par with the Hawk pieces that I put that I've recently done a video of. I would say they're very good casting quality compared to each other. Looks like I actually have someone's hair here stuck in the thing. I don't know if you can just barely see it. Not a big deal, really. So the only piece that I could conceivably complain about is this one here, where you can see the bubbles. So if I had absolutely no experience of filling bubbles or working with resin or anything, I could excuse someone for calling it Forge World, sending them a picture and saying, hey, I want this new piece. I want a new piece of this. And Forge World, from what I've heard, I've never had to ring them for a miscast part or anything like that, or a missing piece. But I could see someone ringing up, and I would potentially excuse them for ringing up and saying, I'd like a new piece, please, of this. For me, though, that's not a big deal. So yeah, that's the new Sicaran. I would say new for 2016, but I believe it was updated last year, towards the end of last year. Just make sure I'm not missing any of the small pieces before I put this back. And all the bits of flashing that have come off. Just make sure that there's no actual model pieces in there. So that's the Sicaran battle tank. In case you're wondering, so if you have any questions, please just let me know in the comments down below. Any comments, please let me know what you think. Constructive comments, criticisms will be taken seriously. And Please visit the website at tinyplasticspaceman.com as I'm packing all this stuff. Well, I really shouldn't be talking, but yeah. And also give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/tinyplasticspaceman. This has been Frank from Tiny Plastic Spaceman, of course, here with the Forge World Sicaran Battle Tank, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thank you very much for watching.